And we're here. This is vk3sl test missions on 160 and 2 metres. Friday night missions. We're back on board. Yes, another week, another, well, probably not eventful week really, but we continue. And yeah, we've got a few things lined up and we'll just see how it all morphs into place. I'm pleased to say that later in the program we'll have Frank joining us as well. So we're sort of zooming into our PC interface zone, so hopefully that'll all do what it should. I've got a hammer on the desk now because there's a cold solder somewhere in the one of the line amps, and to get things started it just needs a bit of gentle persuasion and a tap with the hammer, and then the desk comes alive. So that's all very good. But I'm pleased to say the SP10 is up and running now. I've had that in bits tonight. I've been mucking around with that. I've been replacing capacitors in the power supply, and it seems to be holding up. But I have said that before. So yes, there are a few variables here. Anyhow, we always start these missions with selections from the 20s. That's a time-honoured tradition. We can't fall short of that. So let's kick off, with McKinney's Cotton Pickers from 1930, a recent upload by Mr. Atticus Jazz. vk3sl testing.
With her and sigh the way I do with you. Never harm a flea. He may have a favorite she that he bounces on his knee the way I do with you. Never stop a bee if he is going anywhere. You may be concluding some terrific love affair. Be careful, don't step on an ant in the middle of a pant. He may want to, but he can't the way I do with you.
Very spirited band from the early 1930s, actually 1930, that was recorded, and it features Don Redman and Rex Stewart on that track. Okay, we've got multiple platforms now here with these missions. You can hear us on our normal streaming service, which can be found via the QRZ page if you feel inclined. And that's our sort of a traditional space. I think there are a few people listening there tonight. And there's also a YouTube interface. That's a fairly new development. We've got that going in the last a couple of weeks. And there's a channel devoted to the missions. So you just look up my call sign, vk3sl. And if you sort of dig around a little bit, you will find a channel devoted to this. So yeah, that's the go-to place. And there's a blog spot that goes with that. And again, my call sign in lowercase, vk3sl.blogspot.com. It's important that you use a dot, not an at. People get confused and they don't know what's happening. So blog spots, it's sort of an easy way to sort of register things, I suppose. And there's an email associated with that too, vk3sl@hotmail.com. And you can use at for the email address. There we go. Multiple platforms, and of course there is the live missions on 160 and 2 meters as well. So lots of frontiers here. In fact, it's all a bit confusing, a bit overwhelming. I like the idea of coming in here 5 minutes before I start, and it's not quite as easy as it was. There are a few things, including having to hammer the desk into action, and but that's what happens. All right, what else have we got? We started with McKinney's Cotton Pickers. There's another one of theirs that's been put up, and I've always liked this band. They're such a spirited ensemble, and Don Redman is just a live wire. Here's another one called Laughing at Life. Let's have a listen. VK3SL testing.
Don't mind the raindrops, wait till that rain stops. You'll find the sun laughing at life. No road is lonely if you will only smile through your tears, laughing at life. Live for tomorrow, be happy today. Laugh all your sorrow away. Start now and cheer up, the skies will clear up. Lose all your blues, laughing at life.
McKinney's Cotton Pickers from 1930, Laughing at Life. VK3SL test missions on 160 and 2 meters. Streaming services abound, and yes, it's all happening here. And a reminder that in about an hour's time, or a bit less, we'll have Mr. Frank with us. I'm looking forward to that. Now, I think we need to play some original records. I'm challenging myself to play more original things because it's so easy to recourse to YT, and then it sort of makes this all a little bit pointless. One of the ideas behind starting up these missions was to sort of explore the collection here. Much of it hasn't been catalogued or organised, and I really don't know what's here, to be honest. About 80% of it was collected when I was a teenager and kept in storage for a very long time, and only really in the last last decade or so been bought out and reorganised. So this is a part of that process. It's a process of discovery. So one I did discover today, which I had no idea I had, was a recording of Margaret Young, made in mid-1920s. I don't know if it's acoustic or if it's electric. I haven't even sampled it. So it's a recording called Insufficient Sweetie. I've always been interested in Margaret Young. She was quite an interesting figure, comedian. Made quite a few records. In fact, she even made some recordings in the 1950s as an older person as well. Anyhow, let's listen to a very young Margaret Young in 1925-ish. vk3sl. Testing.
Confidentially, I've got something to tell you, interested as can be. Now I'm not going to use restraint while I'm making this complaint, and it won't take very long to tell you just what's wrong. Insufficient, sweetie, you haven't got the kind of love for me. Insufficient, sweetie, you're just as insufficient as can be. The man I love must be a real world beater with a kiss that kicks like a cold repeater. You may have been fast in days that are gone, but someone surely put your air brakes on. Insufficient, sweetie, you're slower than a train in Arkansas. Listen to me while I tell you true. You ought to go back to the country, to the tall, tall grass, and watch the snails and turtles go whizzing past. 'Cause insufficient, sweetie, your sweetie's too sufficient for you. When I go stepping out with you, wine and scotch flow just like glue. The time you paid my car fare, I had to shout, 'cause when you opened up your pocketbook, a mouse jumped out. You call on me and sit and gaze. How come you've got such country ways? You were a hard-boiled papa in your hometown, but listen, hard-boiled papa, mama slowed you down. Your hand, that when a rabbi is the cleaver of the Ku Klux Klan. 'Cause insufficient, sweetie, your sweetie's too sufficient for you.
Gosh, trying to make sense of those words. That's not an analogy anyone would draw these days. Okay. There we have Margaret Young, Insufficient Sweetie. Obviously an acoustic. There's a few here that I've never really heard. There's another one, another old Okaya record here. And this is an early jazz record. It's Harry Redmond's Jazz Orchestra. And it's interesting uses of the word jazz going back. And I think this one goes back to about 1920, 1921. It's a record called Blues, My Naughty Sweetie Gives to Me. So, yep, another acoustic, but maybe historically significant. We'll get a sense of what's happening here. Off we go. Well, isn't it interesting? That record really demonstrates what a strong influence Jewish music, klezmer music, had on early jazz. It was fundamentally a klezmer recording. Harry Rademann's Jazz Orchestra. Now let's have a look at the label. Let's have a look. It says here, yes, Blues, Harry Rademann's Jazz Orchestra, yes, Okaya. Doesn't give us any other information. What's on the other side? What do we have? Swanee. Oh, Gershwin. George Gershwin. This must be very early Gershwin. And by the way, that last track was recorded in 1920. So I presume about the same time. How old was Gershwin? He would have been very young in 1920. Well, let's have a listen. Green Brothers Xylophone Orchestra. How about that? Well, this is all novelty. This is an education for me. Had no idea these records were on the shelves. And we'll make a couple of small adjustments to the styling. Probably shouldn't be playing these with a steel needle, but who cares? We've got to enjoy them. vk3sl. Testing. Nostalgia from just after the First World War. Recordings on the Okaya label. And that was the Joe Green's Syncopators or something, isn't it? Oh, have a look. As I say, Green Brothers, Xylophone Orchestra. Yeah, there we go. Well, you discover new things all the time. One thing we've been discovering during the week, during the dinner missions, afternoon sessions between 5 and 6-ish each day, we've been discovering Vitatonics. These are recordings made for the Associated Recording Program Service on Hill and Dale Transcription Records. And we've been sampling one every day this week. We've got quite a stash here. And I express my sincere thanks to Mr. J, who's listening, for supporting this venture, because it captivates me. I am quite fascinated by these records because they are so fine. They sound incredible. They're recorded with the latest Western Electric equipment, and the quality is just remarkable. And so I might pick a couple of tracks that really did it for me this week, and we'll play them again, I think. So it's good to sort of sample things during the week and then highlight them again, I reckon. Makes life easier. Yeah, we heard some on the label. It says Brad Collins, and I'm thinking Brad Collins BC might be Bob Crosby, Bing Crosby's brother. And I'm guessing, but he had a very good band in the 1930s, and this is a terrific ensemble. And maybe there's ways of cross-referencing this, but I think it's an interesting one. Anyhow, there's a track here, At the Codfish Ball, and it's followed by a recording of Summertime, which is just amazing arrangement, and it's extraordinary because Gershwin would have still been alive when this record was made, and it's hi-fi, so it sort of brings things into sharp relief a little bit, I think. So let's have a listen. Vitatonics from the 1930s. This is vk3sl, Test Missions, and let's continue.
bottom of the sea. We'll join in the jamboree at the codfish ball. Lobsters dancing in a row, shuffle off to Buffalo. Jellyfish sway to and fro at the codfish ball. Finn and Hattie leads the eel through an Irish reel. The catfish is a dancing man, but he can't like the sardine can. Tuna's trucking left and right, Minnie's mooching, what a night. There won't be a hook in sight at the codfish ball.
vk3sl testing, and we'll now move on to the next track on this disc. It's a bit of lead-in between tracks. This one is Summertime. Interpretation of Summertime. We'll continue this one more track. I don't know what it is at this stage. I'll check. I'll back announce it at the end. We're listening to Vitatone Classics on vk3sl.
That song that makes me think of daisies, makes me dream of spring, makes me want to whistle, makes me want to sing. I wish I knew what's the name of that song that puts a silver lining right inside my coat, makes me think of ice cream sliding down my throat. I wish I knew what's the name of that song This morning after breakfast, I sang it all through. But tonight I forget all the words excepting I love you. What's the name of that song? It makes me think of lovebirds nesting in a tree. Makes me want to whisper, will you marry me? Makes me think of babies bouncing on my knee. What's the name of that song?
Tone Classics here on vk3sl, listening to, we think, maybe Bob Crosby and the band, and a track called What's the Name of That Song? Before that, Summertime, and then we had the Codfish Ball, I think, or Catfish Ball. Yeah, anyhow, we're sampling Hillendale hi-fi recordings, quite rare. You don't hear these very often. And it's great to be able to enjoy them in full flight. The original formats, that's what we're on about here. All right, we'll continue the trend, and we've got something else lined up here on another platform. And this is another one part of the tradition here, which we have to honour regularly. vk3sl.
南の国歌の国太鼓を打て拍子を取れ楽しき今宵南の星十字星愛しの瞳に似て輝ける愛の光今宵もあの空に高く響け思い出の懐かしのボレロよ込め高らかに太鼓を打て拍子を取れ楽しき今宵南の花赤いバラ優しき人の胸に愛の印高く香る情けを風に乗せ遠く送る思い出の懐かしのボレロよ
fade that one out. I'm not sure if I've played that before. I might have. I sort of lose track of these Japanese records. There's no sort of easy identifier on the label. I can tell you it's a Columbia, but as to the content, I don't know what they're singing about. They might be singing about the missions. Who knows? Anyhow, they sound good. And they're in a minor key and they're folksy and pentatonic and characterful. And there's always a place for vintage Japanese music on these missions, I have to say. All right, I think we'll sort of change gear a bit. I got a email from Mr. VCL, Mr. Wayne, who's listening, and he's saying that he's really enjoys the Grand Piano Canyon album from Bob James. And I had a bit of a sample. Sounds good. New venture for me. Don't know anything about this group, so I think I'll play this, and I'll play one of the tracks called Bare Bones. So this is for you, Wayne. So thank you for the suggestion, and it's always good to hear something new, and I think this has particular relevance to you as well, as you mentioned. Okay, vk3sl, testing. Bob James and Grand Piano Canyon from what's the name of the album? I reckon we'll hear another. Thanks, Wayne. Great suggestion. Here's a track called Svengali. vk3 yourself. Fantastic. And by the way, we're transmitting in stereo between 160 and 2 meters. vk3sl test missions on 160 and 2 meters, and we're listening to the music of Bob James, a track called Svengali from the album Grand Piano Canyon, I think it's called. Thanks, Wayne. Great suggestion. All right, we'll continue now with some Jacob Collier. Yeah, Jacob Collier has done some extraordinary things of late. In fact, he's just he's revealing talents which have, his talents are something that it's hard to even fathom, and he just keeps drawing on his inspiration from all sorts of remarkable sources. So he's someone who's growing all the time as a musician. Now, one of the remarkable things he's done is he's got people just to send in short recordings of themselves singing, and usually people who can sing quite well, but they're just home recordings, and they're very short sort of snapshots, just about 30 seconds or so, and then he harmonizes them, and he creates this wonderful tapestry of harmonic color, and they just sound incredible. It's amazing. So what we have here is an example where we get the original recording, the track that someone sent in, and then he sort of value adds to that. He adds dimension to it. So it's got to be heard to be believed. So see what you think. It's a series is called I Harm You. Or I Ham You. And he's done lots of these. So you just get these little vignettes, these snapshots of someone's own sort of expression, and it's really just an improvisation of the sender, and then he's sort of transported it. So yeah, let's have a listen. Jacob Collier, vk3sl.
I don't really know what a super ultra hyper mega meta Lydian scale is, 'cause I took grade 5 theory and that's about it. I'll give you some 3-pot and I'll stick to the tonic, but you can do what you want with this. Let's be honest, mine would be a 3rd and a 5th. What would it be like to be pitch perfect? Sometimes I'm lucky and guess keys of songs, but if I tried a super ultra whatnot, I would probably get it wrong. I don't really know what a super ultra hyper mega meta Lydian scale is, 'cause I take grade 5 theory and that's about it. I'll give you some 3-pot and I'll stick to the tonic, but you can do what you want with this. Let's be honest, mine would be a 3rd and a 5th. What would it be like to be pitch perfect? Sometimes I'm lucky and guess keys of songs, but if I tried a super ultra whatnot, I would probably get it wrong.
You have overcome. You have overcome. For there is no one who can take away your love. You have overcome. You have overcome. For there is no one who can take away your love. Can take away
Oh, give me one chance. I could make you dance, dance. Na 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 na. So give me one chance. I could make you dance, dance. Na 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 na. So give me one chance. I could make you dance, dance. Na 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 na. So give me one chance. I could make you dance, dance. Na 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 na. Hey yeah, woohoo! I wanna sing with you.
sing with you. Yeah, I wanna sing with you. Whoa, whoa, sing with you, sing with you, sing with you. Oh. Hey, yeah, woo-hoo, I wanna sing with you. I really wanna sing with you. Yeah, I wanna sing with you. Whoa, whoa, sing with you, sing with you, sing with you. Oh.
Hey Daddy, I hope your love will never part, will stay forever.
This is
in my
vk3sl, and we've got Frank on the line, I think. So we'll just let this track finish, and hopefully we'll be right to go.
Hey Daddy, I hope your love will never part, will stay forever in my heart, and kindle eyes and ears to listen to this wondrous word.
Zeg mir alles eins Ding, ob ich lach oder sing. Han es Herzeli, wenn es Vögeli, darum lieb ich sie so ring. Han es Herzeli, wenn es Vögeli, darum lieb ich sie so ring. Zeg mir alles eins Ding, ob ich lach oder sing. Han es Herzeli, wenn es Vögeli, darum lieb ich sie so ring. Han es Herzeli, wenn es Vögeli, darum lieb ich sie so ring.
Hey, 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 Jacob, hello from Sweat. Let's make this cool song in duet with me. Sing, sing, swinging, let's make it groove. Now we are cool friends till the end of time. Go. Hey, 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 Jacob, hello from Sweat. Let's make this cool song in duet with me. Sing, sing, swinging, let's make it. Now we are good friends to the end of time. Go.
La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
And we're just standing by and wondering if Frank is hearing me at this point. So we'll just see what's happening. We got Frank. We'll just admit him into the call. We've still got Mr. Collier going in the background there. These extraordinary embellishments.
Steve.
Hello, Frank. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
I've been hanging on for quite a while.
Have you? Okay. Yeah, well, let's see if we can just get things in order here. Yes, sure. Okay, well, we're right on 12:30 now. Yes.
Sorry, I jumped the gun a bit.
No, that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all. It's just, what happens is I'll dial this computer up around about this time, and then only then I can admit you. I think that's the way these Zoom things work. We have to sort of admit you into the conversation, so I won't see the invitation before then. But that's all fine. We'll get there. Anyhow, you're coming through beautifully. It's good signal. And,
You are too.
And I'm sorry that you've had to. It's probably been a bit of an unknown. I think we'll get used to these systems.
I was fooled by the fact that the email itself leaked said 12:15.
Yeah, that's right. I left a bit of a wider berth window, and I think there was a bit of a point of confusion. So sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's all fine.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think we're hearing these tracks of Jacob Collier, how he's invited people to send in their recordings, and this is some improvisation. Then he's just added this incredible harmonic embroidery behind the track. It's just astonishing. Yeah.
I'm particularly, my interest in Jacob, which was always strong ever since I've heard about him, has been raised to several levels higher by trying to get my own primitive studio together.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm fascinated to hone in on what he's using and what his techniques.
Sure. Yeah. He uses.
So,
I think he uses the same platform as you're using. The
Logic Pro.
I think he uses Logic Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm planning to use.
And he gives lots of tutorials online on how he uses it as well. So
that's going to be such a wealth of
it'll be a good go-to
knowledge
place.
for me.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic resource. So. But I love the way he sort of invites people to participate in his projects as well, like these ones we're listening to now, and they're amazing. Now there's another. I'll just fade this, and one track that really stands out is his recent version of Moon River. Have you heard the Moon River?
No, I know Moon River, of course.
Yeah, you know the song.
Could I just for 30 seconds derail the conversation completely?
Yeah, totally.
I just wanted to. I didn't catch the name of the band that you played that Wayne had requested.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I'll see if I can find it.
If you can. I really enjoyed them, and
the great sort of funky jazz fusion, wasn't it?
Yeah, and hi Wayne, what a great choice.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I know them.
Yeah, now I'm just looking for them again.
Sorry to
no, I've
throw things
no,
around.
not at all. It's good to we got struck while the iron's hot here because I think I've already dismissed the file.
I work on a very short attention span.
My attention span's zilch today. I'm burnt out, I'm afraid. But we'll find it. It's here. It's right here somewhere. And
on your playlist.
It's on a different playlist. I'm going to have to put my spectacles on and I'll have a look on the iPad because I think we'll find it there. The details. Bob James is the name of the
Bob
guy.
James, okay.
Bob James, yeah. And this was his 22nd album, and it came out in 1990. And the name of the album is the Grand Piano Canyon. Yeah,
great stuff.
It is.
Yeah,
it's really good. And there's
it is.
I sampled a few during the day, and so thanks, Wayne. It's great. It's really good. We'll definitely play some more of them.
I'm looking forward to jumping on YouTube and hearing perhaps not the whole 22 albums, but at least some of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now that I've completely derailed the train, let's get back to Jacob.
I'm just looking at them now. 22nd solo album by Bob James. Now let's find out a bit more about Bob James because I don't know much about him. See, this is part of it. It's this self-education. Born in 1939, yes. Bob James, American jazz keyboardist, arranger, and record producer, who founded the band Foreplay and wrote Angela, the theme song for the TV show Taxi. He's most famous for the standards such as Nautilus, Westchester Lady, blah, blah, blah. It goes on. So, quite an innovative musician.
Yeah, as you say, a great combination of jazz and a bit of funk in there, and
definitely,
it's nice
fusion elements.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's good. I always enjoy potpourris or bring in different different tangents and mixing styles. I think that's one of the glories of our time, really, isn't it? That we can
certainly is.
People self-producing.
A lot more cross-pollination of styles and a lot more individual input from people who might not necessarily have a great deal of a form, but have got a lot of inspiration.
Sure, that's right, exactly. No, it's good. We're lucky that we can self-produce and we're not entirely at the mercy of the the big record companies.
That's right.
Maybe we are in other ways, but never mind. Yeah. Now, I was going to play you some Jacob Collar playing on the U-bass. So I've also got Moon River lined up as well, but the U-bass.
He plays the U-bass, does he?
Yes, he does. And this is just a home recording. He's just in his backyard. He's got his U-bass and he's just riffing. It says Boogie on Reggae Women's the name of the song, and this is Mr. Collier on the U-bass. So let's have a listen.
I love it.
Should be good. vk3sl and vk3jr testing. There we go. Jacob Collier, Boogie on the
Great
Rigger River.
stuff.
It is. And
He was enjoying himself.
he was, and he's just recording it on his phone and outside. It's a very sort
wonderful.
of just a moment of inspiration, but embracing the U-bass. Great instrument, I have to say. I'm impressed.
Didn't it sound good?
Yeah, they sound. It's got a real sort of woodiness to the sound, which I like.
Yeah.
It reminds me very much of an upright bass.
It's a sound of its own, really, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's certainly a lot of bass in there, but it's got that lovely woody sort of, as you say, earthy sort of wood. Yeah, excellent.
Does. Yes, there we go. So what else have we got of Mr. Collins? He's got he's put out a recording a little while ago, but it's just one of his great examples, and it's one of these multi-layer pastiches of Moon River, and it just harmonically is so adventurous, and it just goes everywhere. It travels around the universe, this piece, and he does it all. He does it all with Logic Pro. So let's have a listen to Moon River with Mr. Collier.
Okay.
vk3sl and vk3jr testing.
wider than the mile. I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker. Such a heartbreak. Wherever you're going, I'm going your way. I'm going to drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. The same roses waiting round bed my huckleberry friend. Crossing you in style someday. Dream maker, drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of such a lot of see. We're off to the same rainbows.
How about that?
What can you say?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? The things you can
It's
do.
breathtaking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It totally. It's if you've got perfect pitch and an incredible imagination, you can do incredible things.
They're lovely, rich harmonies, aren't they?
Oh, the absolute! What an imagination! What a sense of vertical integration! It's just all.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing and morphing, and he's using every resource known.
It's all there. It's just amazing stuff, but at the same time, it's all seamless. It's
Absolutely.
It's very professional, and
it is.
Just.
Yeah, but just having the imagination for it, just to think,
I know.
Just the concept, and to be moving harmonically so much, and to remember I don't know how he blueprints the whole thing.
No, I'm dying to get in and have a look at his website.
Yeah. And look, he gives a 2-hour talk on how he made that recording, and I think he won a Grammy with that. And it's been a big hit. It's got millions of views. And
must find this.
Look, I'll give you the links, because it's a really, and he's very articulate, and I mean he's just a master of the software, of course. And
he's obviously very interested and generous to share.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
He's not trying to, say how good am I, and I'm not telling anyone how I do it.
Yeah, that's right. He's and just the way I look at those examples before, when he was using other people's working with other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's a great ambassador for music, because he's so community spirited with it all.
Does he sing most of the time a cappella, or does he get some instrument backing sometimes?
Most of his concerts, and the concert Hen and Kate went to, he had a whole instrumental group with him, and most of his stuff now is more working with other musicians. This is an earlier work he did a couple of years ago. Yeah. He was only about 20-something, 22 or something when he made that. But, all his early stuff was just done on his own. He just multi-tracked 64 voices.
It's just unbelievable.
He's made a whole choir out of his own voice. But
well, you can have unlimited tracks in Logic Pro.
Right.
I know that.
Yeah.
What you want is unlimited ideas.
That's it. But I just there's so much complexity in that arrangement. It's constantly morphing. It's harmonically so rich and just morphing all the time. And
very complex.
It is. And just to have be able to conceive something of that ilk, it really it just blows my mind. I just find it amazing just to think. Has he? I think he must have planned it all first. You can't.
You wouldn't do that off the top of your head. There's no way.
No, you couldn't. And the chord extensions, they're just so layered and so.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's great. And there's a lot. He's done a lot of that. He's made a lot of pieces of that kind. But I think his modern stuff is more. It's much more collaborative. That's for sure. But
I think for nearly all musicians who are really creative, whilst they might enjoy making music on their own, it would be far less than the pleasure you get through making music with other people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it has to be a shared thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyhow, so that was a little. I thought that would be a nice thing to figure today.
What a beauty!
Yeah. So what have I got else? I pulled out a pile of records, Frank, off the shelf.
Yes.
I'll just bring them up and put them in my lap, and we'll just have see what's here. See what's in the pile. So here we go. A stack of 78s. They're sitting here. And
just while you're getting them up, could I just say hello to everyone listening, but in particular to Jamie, if you're listening, and enjoyed those Hill and Dale records.
The Vitatone records,
Vitatone, yes. Wonderful.
They are great, aren't they? And they just completely floor me.
Yeah.
just the fineness of them, and just to think that we've got a snapshot of music from that time with that quality. And and obviously they're using the very best equipment to record the bands, but they're just so balanced, lovely balanced recordings. And
I guess that's one of the main reasons they didn't catch on. It was because people, the listening public didn't have the equipment that would let them hear how good they were.
I think you're right. I think that, these were specifically for just transcription, incidental music and stations and things. I don't think they were sort of seen as commercial records.
No.
But I think you're right. In general, I think the technology was certainly there to hi-fi in all its glory, but people didn't have the facilities to experience. They just had radiograms.
But that's right, and it wasn't until the early 50s when the microgroove came upon.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But even then, people had to go and buy new pickups and new turntables, didn't they?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of commercial imperatives there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
fascinating stuff.
It is. It's good. Well, here we go. Here's one. I'm holding it up to the light here. It says Master Yehudi Menuhin. Now, I think Menuhin was only about 12 here. So
Master is right. There's master in that sense.
So this is recorded in the 20s, so it's early Menuhin, and I haven't heard it for a long time, and I'd like to hear it again. It's Paganini's Campanella. So we'll put it on the table, and I'll just have to make sure I've got this thing switched in. I think I do. There we go. And I'll switch off the buyer. It's all quite involved, all these switching around. I'm using the magnetic pickup today. So let's have a listen to young Mr. Menuhin, vk3sl and vk3jr. There we go, young Menuhin. He was only about 12 when that record was made. So
Certainly a night of virtuosic performances, isn't it?
yeah, it certainly is. Yeah,
It's, with Jacob and
yes,
Yehudi.
yes, young Yehudi. Now it's interesting because he sort of reached his zenith, I think, when a lot of people commented on this when he was about 16, 17, and then he sort of
Really?
went downhill for the rest.
He peaked early, eh?
He did peak very early, and there's a lot of great youthful exuberance in that performance. I think it's remarkable, and but yeah, with Mr. M, he had a crisis. I think he started to think about how he did it, and this is often the problem when you try and intellectualize technique.
Overthought it, yes.
Yeah, and then suddenly you realise. There's a story about when he went to have lessons with Isai, and Isai said, "Well, play me some scales," and he couldn't play a scale because he'd never.
Never done it.
He hadn't done it, or he hadn't understood the scales. So, and I think those sort of experiences sort of put him on edge, and he started to think, "Oh, how do I do it?" And then from that point, he started to think too much, and then. And later in his life, he got into his yoga and all of his, his other Eastern
Indian,
philosophies
and things.
Yeah, but
that is fascinating because you wonder, and you wonder some of these great instrumentalists who not exactly untrained but minimally trained. And that you get it in the jazz world as well. There's a great jazz pianist called Errol Garner who taught himself to play.
Really? Is that from
piano?
Okay, I've heard of Errol Garner, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he was a virtuosic jazz pianist.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s, and he allegedly never had a lesson.
Really?
So for some people, maybe. You are not necessarily well. You run the risk of killing their sort of their native ability. You know.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one.
It's difficult, but I mean, obviously, you can't. It's very difficult to know who that would apply to and who not, and it would apply to a very relatively small number of people.
Yeah, sure. No, I think you're right. It's hard to know. Well, you've mentioned Errol Garner, and now you've got me thinking. I want to hear Errol Garner's playing.
Okay, just before we do, while we're still on Yehudi, I went to one of those 3MBS special days on a particular composer.
Oh, yes.
A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think. No, they had one on Johann Bach.
Yeah.
The great Mr. Bach.
Yeah.
And they had this wonderful young boy called Christian Lee.
Oh, yes.
Playing, I think he played the great Chacon.
Oh, did he really? Wow. Fantastic.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it was just virtuous, just wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think he was 10 or 11 at the time.
Oh, extraordinary. Yeah.
Do you know of him at all?
Christopher Lee.
Christian
Lee. The name is familiar through Oster. Yeah. I'm sure I've heard of Christian Lee, but I don't think I've...
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be on...
I just don't think I've heard him play. Yeah.
No, he'd have a presence on the web, I'm sure.
I'm sure he does. Yeah. Okay. It's staggering. I think there's something about young people in, who have a particular, I don't know, I've often wondered what talent really is, what's the magical ingredient, but I think a lot of it is just being intensively schooled at the right time and getting, and it's a self-perpetuating thing, of course. If once they're on the treadmill, they work incredibly hard and they get their 10,000 hours in early.
Oh no!
They say, I think they say it's 10,000 hours, no matter what you do, whatever discipline to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a staggering amount. I know Yehudi's incidents, well, I think a part of his crisis was the fact that he was locked in his room and he had no life, really. And he had to practice 8 hours a day, even as a really young kid.
Yeah.
So yes, the hard yards are there. Even Heifetz said that he did 10,000 hours before he was 10.
Oh no!
It's sort of child abuse in another sense. So
It kind of is.
Yeah, it is. So you got to weigh all these things up, really.
You'd need tiger parents really to do that.
That's the thing, and then it brings up all sorts of complex issues about socialisation and whether the talent's one thing. And it's great to have the adoration, but is the person balanced? Do they feel fulfilled, or do they?
Exactly.
How do they sort of see themselves?
And what about it if you, as a result of all of that, you are good but not good enough to be anything really special, but you've still put in your 10,000 hours, but that's as good as you can be.
Exactly.
There's nothing to show for it in a sense.
Absolutely, there isn't. This is the tragedy of it, because for every Menuhin or Heifetz or Errol Garner, there's a million others who have put in the hard yards.
That's right.
Haven't that yield the accolades? So then they fall. It's a strange way our systems sort of work with talent. Yeah, it
certainly is.
Yeah. Anyhow, but you got me, Ken. I want to hear a little bit of Errol Garner. So there's a recording.
Okay.
There's a recording of him here playing Misty, and I love the song.
See
Misty.
he wrote Misty.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, he's not particularly well known as a composer, but this was his
This is
showpiece.
a beautiful song. I love the song.
It is a lovely song.
I'd like to hear him play it. So I'm just trying to click on it. Here we go. It looks like it's happening.
See what you think.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, how about that? Flights of Imagination. Errol Garner. Well, and that was his own composition. Misty.
Someone else words to it.
You there?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. You just.
Hello.
Yeah, no,
Hello?
yeah, that's it. That's good.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd folded the microphone back over the.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's working well. It's with the Zoom.
It's working well.
It's good. It's really good. And
Yes, it's very good, really.
yeah, that's fine. Well, that was good to hear. I can't recall hearing Errol Garner play before. So yeah.
No. Well, he's primarily a jazz. It wasn't terribly jazzy. It was a sort of flowery.
Yeah, it's quite
performance,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, rhapsodic. That's the very word. But primarily jazz. Very, very good jazz piece. He had one drawback in that he liked to hum along with his own playing.
Oh, did he really?
On records, and I think he did it sort of spontaneously and sometimes without realising he was doing it.
Yeah.
A couple of people do that. Keith Jarrett does it.
Okay.
But doesn't. I think it detracts usually from the experience of listening.
Yes, I'm sure it does. I find that I inadvertently do that when I'm conducting ensembles.
Fine. Look at us.
And I find myself humming along or singing along, in the noise, and I suddenly think, heck, I probably can be heard.
Oh, my piano teacher used to do it.
Right.
So
okay.
When I was playing, or when anyone's playing, he was inclined to hum along.
Yeah, sure.
know.
Yeah, it's funny. So, yeah.
I used to find it distracting.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can understand. Yeah. But no, different mannerisms. But that's good. Oh, well, now I'm pleased I've got Errol Garner on them. I've always known the song Misty. Now you mention it, I associate the name with the song. But to hear him play.
He was a man of colour, American.
That was a TV performance, so there was a lot of flamboyance and sort of it's sort of, you could tell he was really playing to the camera in that performance.
It was that sort of playing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So that's typical.
Touch of the Liberace's.
A
Really.
a little bit, but that's fine. That's good.
Sure.
Now I'm just looking through this pile. I've just taken an unedited pile of records here, 78s, and another one in here is a recording of Joseph Szigeti. Now he's a fiddle player who definitely did his 10,000 hours. He's not as talented as someone like Menuhin in some respects. He just didn't have the highly polished technique. But he had, what's interesting about Szigeti is he had quite an idiosyncratic technique. And this always fascinates me about a lot of these older players, is that their technique sort of evolved out of their province or their cultural milieu, and they sort of developed in a way that was quite independent from other schools of playing. So there's sort of characteristics which relate to the broader culture in their playing. And Szigeti had learnt from gypsy players, I think, and he learnt in a way where his arms were very low and close to his body. So he had sort of a very awkward manner. But it's interestingly, in some strange way, his difficulties with his technique, the fact that he was, I won't say fighting them, but he was working with sort of technical limitations, meant that he was able to communicate something quite yearning. A yearning quality in his playing is really evident. And it's interesting. It's you get this very, it's hard one to describe, but there's a sense of great, I won't say sorrow, but there's something very, I don't know. You can tell he's struggling a little bit with the technique, but not in a way that's compromising the playing. But it's not too easy. Sometimes when playing sounds too easy, it just sort of slips out and it can sound a bit shallow. But sometimes when someone, you can really hear that they're working. There's the music shines through in a different way.
Yeah, the too easy sounds almost glib, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, it does. So I always find that sort of, perhaps I'm just speaking to my own prejudices here, that I struggle with things, but I think you do hear this in a lot of the older players, that they're some of the players, they're playing cloys a little bit, or it might just have certain characteristics. I don't think that they detract at all. I think
No.
they add a lot. But look, Szigeti was a very fine player, and it used a lot of creative intonation. And he was a great champion of modern music at the time. And this record here, he's playing. I won't play the whole work. I'll just play a bit of it. It's the Fountains of Arethusa by Szymanowski. He's a Polish composer, and then it's actually got 3 tracks on this. It's got that, and then he's playing a virtuoso piece, The Flight of the Bumblebee, which you'll know. Then a pastoral by Stravinsky. So, it's with Nikita Magalov at the piano.
Sounds interesting.
So, I'd like to have a listen to this. I can't recall hearing it before. So, I know the work, the Fountains of Arethusa, because Thibaut recorded this, and it's a very ethereal, it's a very expressionistic music. But you might hear that in Szigeti's playing, there's something very... the only word I can find is yearning. It's a yearning quality. But,
It seems consistent with gypsy yearning. A lot of gypsy music has a yearning quality, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I've always been profoundly moved by his playing. When we did our long walk, we walked to the town in northern Romania of Sighetu Maramuresh, which is his birthplace.
Oh,
so
wow.
I made our own little personal homage to him. So
excellent.
Let's have a listen. VK3SL and VK3JR. vk3sl, testing on 160 and 2 metres. Just heard music of Joseph Szigeti. Played three pieces.
Very
Yeah.
lovely.
You might need to swing your mic around there, Frank.
Hello?
Yeah, there we go.
How's that?
Yeah, it's good.
The
Yeah.
When would that have been recorded, Steve?
Mid-30s.
Okay.
Yeah, mid-1930s, and he made quite a few records for Columbia at that time. There's something, I was trying to think of another way of saying this. I think the playing sounds grounded. It sounds like it's got a resignation to gravity. There's something that's sort of from the earth. And I think it's partly to do with his articulation. He had a very very wide range of almost vocal sort of colours in his articulation and consonants and vowels, and you hear the music almost talks to you, cajoles. And that's one of the things I've always admired about Szigeti. It's very personable sort of sound. It's very very identifiable. So yeah.
Has he recorded much Bach?
He did. In fact, now you mention it, I can record it a lot later in life, and it may have been a bit of a mistake. I'm just going to change the needle. It may have been a bit of a mistake because he started to really lose his technique. By the time he was in his 60s, things sort of became undone quite quickly. And some people think he shouldn't have kept going. I think there's a lot in those later recordings as well. He was a great interpreter. He had wonderful ideas. Sorry, I'm just putting the head shell back on. But he recorded prolifically. His early recordings go back to the acoustic era. And he was certainly quite an important figure. He did a lot for contemporary music. And anyhow, here we go. Here's an old Columbia in the same pile. I spotted this before, of Szigeti playing some of the solo Sonata Number 1. We can hear yeah. Should we have a listen to the Adagio, the first movement of this? Yeah, this would be good. We must have a listen to this. And I haven't heard these early recordings of it. So I think this was recorded in the late 1920s. And we'll hear the first sonata in G minor. So by Bach, played by Joseph Szigeti, solo fiddle. And you might get a sense of that playing, that sort of that there's lots of consonants and vowels. So let's have a listen. vk3sl. There we go. A recording of Joseph Szigeti from about 1928, I think. And
Yes, it's certainly very individualistic style, wasn't it?
yes, definitely. And I mean, it's a product of the times as well, playing with that sort of with that sort of sustained quality.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but it's a little bit distant recorded, so the sort of the intrinsic qualities we were talking about before weren't so evident there, because it's recorded at distance. I think that recording, it's not such easy to sort of get the intricacies of the playing. But
No.
but you definitely hear his raised sevenths. You hear his gypsy intonation.
Yes. Well, you do. You do. And again, that yearning feeling through it.
You get that sense through the intonation, and his flattened thirds. The thirds are all the minor third interval are very flat, so you get it just makes the music sound well. It makes it sound sort of noble and sincere and stately, I suppose. Reflective.
It does. It's certainly it's just different, I guess, from the way I'm used to hearing it.
Yeah,
And,
we're so conditioned to even temperament in
that's
string playing.
right. That's the trouble, isn't it?
It is.
But
So I find that fascinating. My teacher in London years ago was absolutely obsessed with creative intonation. Every single he'd make me analyse things, and every single interval he felt had to have a harmonic gravity. And then that gravity had an emotional sort of attachment as well. So we sort of look at everything in terms of its emotional weight and what's the the feeling behind, and the way that the feelings and the emotions sort of morphed and changed. I mean, this is just one. There's many ways to do this, but it is. But you hear there's something really personal about that performance.
Yes, very much so. It was from the heart. You could feel that, couldn't you?
Definitely. No, it's intriguing. So there's quite a different aesthetic that it certainly appeals to me about the especially string playing from that time. But look,
I thought it was very good.
Yeah,
it was certainly very good, but it just hit me as being quite different, really, from any other performance I'd heard of it.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of intensity that's imbued. That it wasn't. It was more reflective or more sort of episodal, in a way. I don't know. There's lots of different ways of looking at the interpretation.
Sure.
But,
certainly very valid and partly of its time, I guess, as you say, with the sustained nature of the notes. And,
sure. That's right. Yeah. So anyhow, that's
fascinating.
Mr. Szigeti. Now there's another one here, Frank, that's in this pile now. And I was looking here. Now this is one I've never heard before, and I wouldn't mind hearing it. It's Leon Goossens on the oboe playing an Albinoni concerto.
Oh, not the Albinoni.
No, I don't think it's the one. I don't know. I really don't know. Now, this is a recording of an Albinoni concerto made before the war.
Okay.
So it goes back. So, Baroque music in the 1930s is something, well, it's really what we've just listened to, isn't it? And
that's
so,
right.
Yeah. So this will have a particular stamp on it. But,
so he's brother of Eugene?
Yeah, Eugene's brother. He's a beautiful oboe player. Well, so let's have a listen to just the second and third movement. So we'll hear the adagio, and I'm sure it'll have some gorgeous sustained lines, and it won't won't have any inkling of interpret. What are they called? The movement of Baroque specialists. You know what I mean.
Yes, I do know what you mean. I don't know what it's called either.
Yes, you know what I mean. Yes, it's it'll be very much of its kind, and it won't have. It's the authenticity movement. That's what I.
Yes.
So we won't have any of that here, but let's have a listen to this. This is something that's quite intriguing. So, Mr. Goossens.
Here we go.
There we go,
Lovely.
Leon Goosens. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. It wasn't the Albinoni, but it was very nice.
I have no
Albinoni.
idea about that work. I know that most of Albinoni's music is lost. He's one of those composers whose almost entire corpus was lost in a fire. And yeah, it's a bit of a sad story, really. I think he wrote something like 60 operas and they've all gone. So libretto survived, but the operas are gone. So it's a bit sad.
Would have been better if the music had survived, not the libretto.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mr. Albinoni, anyhow, that's from his Opus 7, it says here. But
Okay.
yeah, there we go. It's a bit of I love the sound of the oboe.
So do I.
And
I wanted, as a kid, if I'd been able to choose an instrument to learn,
yeah.
I would have chosen the oboe. I thought it had a wonderful sound. I still do.
Yeah, sure. It's a sort of very penetrating sound, doesn't it?
Penetrating but plaintive and beautifully melodic.
Yeah, I agree. And but it's got this wonderful complexity with the overtones, and you can get there's something that sort of has almost a visceral effect. When I'm listening to an oboe or playing alongside an oboe player, it sort of penetrates to the core.
Right. Does it sort of get in the way of your own sort of?
No, I really enjoy it. I've got a work colleague who's a really good oboe player at one of the places I work, and he's been wanting to do some work playing together for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to taking up the opportunity. And,
yes.
So it should be good.
I've heard it's a very difficult instrument to play, harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to sort of sustain a line, I think, because
yes,
breath control.
There's breathing and you have breathing issues that perhaps you don't have, say, with a clarinet.
Yeah, it's right.
Or a flute.
Being a double reed, I think you've got to have a more robust air column to keep the instrument going.
To keep it going, yeah.
You do. And no, it's a great instrument, and Leon Goosens is one of the foremost exponents of the oboe. So
yes.
Yeah.
There was a great back in the early 50s when I used to go to think, I've put my weights up now. A long time ago, I went to the school concerts. As a very young child, they had this oboist called Yeri Tanshabudek.
Oh yes. He was very well known in Melbourne or in Australia.
Yes, that's right. He was. I think he was a refugee from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, I think he taught this fellow who I'm mentioning. Yeah.
Really?
Because he's talked about him, and I've got recordings of him here.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I do. I have. I'll dig them up and I'll play them on another missions. Yeah, on 10-inch LPs. Yeah.
Excellent. He was a lovely player.
Yeah.
But he did one of the he did a bit of an explanation to the kids about how it worked, and and then he played some lovely solos, and that was really what got me started on wanting to play the oboe.
Oh wow! Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Well, I've got something else lined up here I wanted to share with you. Now, I haven't got time to play the whole cantata, but there's, as you probably know, the cantata Ich habe genug.
Yes, I do. I have enough.
Number 82 there's an interpretation of this that's always stuck with me, and it's the version. It was recorded in 1950 with Hans Hotter, and. Now, the thing is, it's a longish cantata, and to find the right spot, I think it's about 8 minutes in. So we'll just try and see. He is the most remarkable singer. He's a big voice, but he sings very intimately here, and I think he just uses his control to really... I don't know. There's a sense of humility about this performance that I find really moving, and I just wanted you to share it with you. So,
there's a lovely aria. I'm sure it's the one you're going to play.
Yeah, I think
it is.
I think if we can find it, all in good. If not, I'll have to.
Not to worry.
I'll find it for another time. But we'll see how we go. So, let's have a listen to Mr. Hotter.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
vk3sl working vk3sl.
sein eigen möchte sein. Im Glauben halt ich ihn, dass ich auch mit Simeon die Freude jenes Lebens schon. Lasst uns mit diesem Bande ziehen. Ach,
Okay.
Beautiful.
I'll fade it there. It is sublime, isn't it?
It is sublime. That's the word. It just is, and the melody fits the words so beautifully.
Oh, there is so much intimate.
It's a sense of contentment and peace.
Definitely. It's a very humbling performance. I've known that for a long time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
He's got a lovely voice.
It's a
he was in the
voice.
50s.
Yeah, 1950.
Voice.
Yeah, 1950 apparently, Frank.
Ooh.
Now, I'm just going to have to make a quick announcement because the this computer I'm streaming on is belongs to one of the schools, and it's got a software upgrade which I can't stop, and it's going to happen in 2 minutes. So, I think at this point I will.
Yes,
we'll keep talking, but I'm just going to say to people, anyone listening on the stream, at this point I'll have to terminate. And we'll certainly be back next time. But I'll switch the stream off now because
goodbye to all the streamers, and please listen again if you feel like it.
Absolutely,
I'm sure you will.
Yes, indeed. So thank you if you're listening on the stream, and we'll have